Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're going over the Euripides play, The Medea. This one is definitely a tragic story. It's a lot darker and sadder than the Alcestis that I covered in my last video. And we'll find that there's a little bit of a crossover between these characters as well, interestingly enough. At least in their kind of backstories. But let's get into it. This is the breakdown of what happens in the play. It starts off with the nurse of the house and the tutor. So these are kind of the servants of the household that are also the caretakers of the children. And their loyalties as servants are to Jason of Golden Fleece fame and Medea, his wife, who is also known to be kind of a ruthless witch lady. She knows how to make like potions and poisons and other sorts of things of that nature. And she kills people and tricks people. And has quite a long track record of doing so. And what happened here was that after doing all sorts of bad things throughout their adventures, I guess, Jason and Medea end up in a land called Corinth. Jason they had killed some of his family. Medea killed her own brother. When she was running away with Jason, her father was pursuing them, and she had her brother along for the ride. She chopped him into pieces and threw his body parts into the sea so their father would stop to collect his son's body parts. And thus they got away in the most messed up way of all time. But I guess that's how things go when you marry a crazy witch lady. Anyway, the nurse and the tutor of the house are talking about how Medea is freaking out because Jason has decided he's going to marry the princess of Corinth. And he's left his family behind, and he's basically shacked up with the princess and is going to start a new family in the royal house, taking care of himself in that way. And Medea is freaking out. And she comes out of the house, and much like in the Alcestis, there's a lot of long kind of monologues about just talking about the tragedy of the situation and really exploring that character's feelings and just the anguish they're going through, which I think is actually pretty cool about Euripides. It's not overdone, at least in my opinion. So it's nice to just kind of hear people, talk about how they're thinking. This was done as a live performance, of course, and so there's no inner monologue going on like in a novel, and it's just cool to see what people are thinking about. And one of the things that Medea thinks about is how men suck and how women have to marry a man, and you have no way of telling if they're going to be a good person or not. And you're just stuck with whoever you married, and it's a gamble. And obviously she feels like she made a bad bet. I've been there myself, quite frankly. So I find it very relatable. She goes on about what's happening and how she's ruined, and I think she really loved Jason. I mean, she's sort of driven to madness here by a couple of things. One of them is jealousy. One of them is feelings of rejection. But also, as the play continues, one thing that she just really cannot stand is for anyone in Corinth to look at her like she's a loser, basically. Anyone to find her pitiable or weak, or to laugh at her, especially if they were to laugh at her, or dishonor her in any way. She basically wants everybody to respect and fear her, and her reputation is more important than absolutely anything at all. Even her own life. She's willing to risk her life to protect her reputation. And so Medea is pretty badass like that. So Creon, the king of Corinth, rolls up to her house, and he's the father of the princess. And Jason's, I'm not sure if he's already married the princess or if he's going to, but effectively Jason's father-in-law. And he comes up to Medea and says, I've heard you've been talking all this seditious talk. You've been talking smack on my family. You're banished from the land. You and your two boys. So she's got two young sons with Jason, and they are banished as well. And she begs him not to send her away, and he just isn't having it. He says, you're just gonna try to kill me, so beat it. And he's pretty smart like that, because she's definitely gonna try to kill him. So after he leaves, Medea basically talks with the chorus and explains, yes, I am going to kill everyone. I'm going to kill the princess, I'm going to kill the king, and I'm going to kill my own children. And that's the way it's going to be. Nobody is going to think that it's okay to cross Medea. It's all about her reputation in that way. And of course, she's also emotionally distressed, but in a lot of ways, I think it's about her street cred. And so Jason rolls up next, and they get into an argument, married couples argument, which was actually a really good argument, I thought. There was good back and forth, and Medea makes a really great case for why Jason is a jerk, for leaving her for a young princess and just abandoning her and their children, and now they're getting banished from the land. And Jason makes a pretty nice excuse where he's like, I married this princess really for the family. Because if we get married into this royal family, then we'll be protected, we'll be rich, and I'll be able to have brothers for our kids that will be princes, and the boys are going to grow up in part of a wealthy and powerful house. Whereas if it was just us, we're kind of like outlaws on the run, sort of. So we're just going to be poor and ultimately not know what to do with ourselves. And maybe Jason has a point here. I don't know what their prospects actually looked like in ancient Greece, but if you're going to go from being royals to then you're going to be, I don't know, goat farmers or something in your old age, it's probably not a life you're cut out for. So maybe he did what he had to do. I'm not sure how to judge his actions on that, because I think it has a lot of probably cultural context there. But he was basically thinking, you should be supportive of me hooking up with the princess. And obviously she's not. And he offers to help her. He's got friends that can take care of her in exile. He's there. He's like, name whatever money you need. I'm here to pay all the child support. And she tells him to beat it. And so he leaves, and they have a big blowout. Medea had already mentioned, in the fight she had mentioned how she killed her own brother. She mentioned how she had gotten Jason's uncle killed. His uncle Peleus. She convinced his daughters to boil him alive somehow. I don't know that story, but she convinced his own daughters to boil him to death. And interestingly enough, Peleus is Alcestus's father from the other play, the Alcestis. So interestingly enough, Medea, who is pretty much like the worst ex-girlfriend possible, and Alcestis, who is the exact opposite, really. She gave her life voluntarily for her husband, who was also not really the greatest dude, but very different character. After that, Medea continues to describe her plan of what she's going to do. She's going to make a poison that will be laced in a golden crown and a beautiful golden dress. Now, she's like a granddaughter to Apollo, and she's got this cool, like, legendary dress of the sun kind of thing, which is pretty dope, apparently. And she's going to poison that, and she's going to send her kids with these gifts for their new stepmother, and with the hope that she'll put him on, and the poison will start to do its work and kill her. And then after that, she's going to kill her own children. And the motive for killing the children, it seems unnecessary, but I think that what she wants to do is she has two things in mind. The main thing is to hurt Jason. The main reason is that she wants to just hurt his feelings by killing his sons, which is pretty brutal. The other part of it, though, is also a little bit somewhat pragmatic, I guess, as much as you can be in something like this, which is she will have used them as assassins against the royal house, and in the olden days there would probably be killed in retaliation by relatives of the royals, and so in a way she wants to be the one to kill them so that they don't suffer the fate of just whatever happens after she kind of hits the run. So that's the plan. And then just by chance, the king of Athens rolls by, Aegis, and he's just completely oblivious to what's going on, and he asks her what's wrong, and she talks all the smack. Oh, Jason's such a bad, horrible man, and he just like, oh, geez, I can't believe he's doing that. He's left you for a princess. That's pretty messed up. Aegis even thinks like, that's messed up, dude. So Jason, even by the standards of ancient Greek men, is being kind of a dirtbag here. And Medea tricks him. Aegis is aware of the shenanigans she was involved in with Jason. And she says, after I'm exiled, can I come live in Athens? And he says, of course. Well, then please promise to basically not extradite me for any crimes. I'm worried that I'm going to get, taken away and captured by one of my enemies. So she makes Aegis swear to the gods in a very ambiguous way that no matter what happens, no matter who comes looking for her, he will protect her and give her sanctuary in Athens against any kind of criminal extradition situation. And he swears. And then he's like oblivious, like, alright, see ya in Athens later. So Aegis leaves, and now she's got her escape plan situated. She gets the nurse to be an accomplice to the deed by helping with the poison dress situation. It doesn't really make sense totally how the dress gets poisoned, but it's not important. Jason comes back, and she starts laying it on thick. She tells him I was so wrong. I'm a stupid woman. I'm just mad. I'm just jealous. And how could you expect me to control my silly emotions? I'm just a woman. So I apologize, and what you're doing is right. It's really, I should have supported you in, sleeping with this woman. She says, like, I should have stood in as an attendant at your wedding bed, cheering you on, or something to that effect, which was pretty funny. So she's actually very sarcastically kind of laying in a few digs at him still, even though she's trying to play nice. But Jason's dumb enough to take the bait, and he's all excited. She convinces Jason to have the children bring the princess the dress and the crown as gifts, saying that gold would change her mind and allow the boys to stay in Corinth and only banish Medea. So Jason thinks it's a great idea, and he's really happy. Takes the kids, and when he goes into his new wife's room, she sees him, and she's kind of happy to see her husband, and then she sees the boys, and it says her face goes all cold and like, ew, gross. Jason begs her to look at his children as part of their family. They're his children after all, and don't hate on them. And look, they brought you fancy dress and crown, and she's like, oh, cool. I like gifts. They're so beautiful. And the dress is like I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's like a legendary dress granted down through the family by Apollo or something. So it's probably super cool. She gets really excited. She tries them on. And when she tries on the crown, it's not just poison. It's like flesh-eating acid. It melts to her skull, and she can't take it off. And she's freaking out and thrashing about it as her flesh is melting off, and the dress starts to burn her alive, and she dies in this horrifyingly agonizing, gruesome way. And the servants are freaking out. They're running around. The king gets called, and he comes and sees his daughter, and he freaks out. He grabs her in his arms as she's dying, and he gets stuck to the dress, and it melts off his flesh, and he dies. And so the king and the princess are dead. Jason is just totally screwed at this point. And in the meantime, the kids have already gone back to their mother's house, and they're all freaking out. Medea hears from a servant what happened and thinks it's awesome. She's gleeful about what happened, glad to get her revenge. And then she has to enact the final part of the plan, which is to kill her boys. And this is the only part where she shows even a bit of a conscience. She sees their faces and almost for a moment doesn't do it. Then she hardens her resolve and thinks, nah, I really have to strike the ultimate blow to Jason. I've got to destroy him. And so she chases her kids in the house with a sword. And in the Athenian theater, they would do gratuitously violent things off stage. But in this one, they go into the house. The house is off stage. But you can hear at a couple of points the kids crying that their mother is coming after them with a sword and she's going to murder them. So it's pretty gruesome. And Jason arrives shortly after that, and he wants to find his boys. He's worried that they need protection from the royal family, wanting revenge. And the chorus tells him, don't go in there, dude. Do not go in there. Medea has killed your kids, and he can't believe it. And the last scene, Medea rolls out in a chariot, her getaway car. She has the bodies of her boys with her, and Jason is completely crushed. He's completely destroyed. And Medea gloats in her victory. And all that Jason can do is cry to Zeus, please see the injustice that happened here. He's hoping for some way karma or divine justice or whatever forces of fate will punish Medea because she's gotten away with just wrecking everything for him. And she pretty much doesn't care. She refuses to leave the bodies of the boys because she doesn't want them to be buried in a land where people will hate them and possibly desecrate their graves or say bad things about them. She's going to take them with her, and she's going to get out of there, and then she's got the protection of Athens waiting for her. And yeah, that's the end. She's like, later, loser. The end. So that's a pretty dark story. It's messed up. I mean, I don't know how you could be more tragic than what happened there. It's a look into the mind of a scorned lover and just the craziness that can build in somebody. It definitely can. That's a real force of nature in human relationships. When something happens like that, people act crazy. So it's also a really cool insight into human nature, I think. And the Medea is sort of Euripides. I don't know, sort of. I think it is Euripides' masterpiece, probably, at least as far as literature and theater people are concerned. I don't know about just like a random YouTube guy like me, but I thought it was great. So definitely check it out. It's, I don't know, 50 pages of reading. I read it in 3 sittings. Not really sitting down for very long, just like 15, 20 minutes at a time. And yeah, it was awesome. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment. And subscribe. Till next time.